if you don't make money today, or if we don't make money today, like on the street, we're not going to eat. When it came to tarot, palm reading, face reading, energy reading, there was a lot of pressure. I really barely went to elementary school. I would go in for some months, leave for some months. I wasn't allowed to work any other job or trade besides fortune telling. I did not want to get married so young. It was actually my cousin who was the arranged marriage. We have our own laws, system, and our own rules that are really just a big room full of Roma men that kind of decide what should happen. We own you now. And the English translation is, we are your landlord. So they would say, oh, mesemo gazda, which means we are your landlord. We own the rights over you. We own your body. We own what you do, what you say, what you wear, how you look, who you talk to. Everything is controlled at that point. And that's what was said to me on my wedding night. Right after that was said to me, like, I instantly had like my heart drop into my gut. My ex-father-in-law, he would just being drunk, but that was highly accepted. So like he would grab my face and like slobber and like kiss me all over, or like grab my private parts. They say that like he's just an older man. In the family that I married into, they practice more high risk crime and schemes, and they play very dirty. Like there's a more like cutthroat attitude, hustle, and like viciousness that you have to have in life and in general.
Mine is the only voice.
What have I been doing?
Lay down my autonomy.
After that, it got very dark very quickly.
Hey, my name is Shalise Ansola, and this is Cults to Consciousness, where we discuss leaving high-demand religions or organizations and finding healing and independence through awareness and true individual sovereignty. If you're only listening on those podcast platforms and you would like to see our faces, go to our YouTube channel at Cults to Consciousness. It really means so much to us, guys, when you can interact with the post. It's the best way to support the podcast. We love it when you leave those words of encouragement for our guests who are bravely coming on and sharing their story. They are real people. They do read the comments, and they always feel so supported from our incredible community. So thank you guys for doing that. So today's guest, we found her through our research assistant, Rachel. Shout out to you. She grew up in a very conservative subgroup in the Romani culture. We're going to be talking about what that means. I'm actually going to have her say the name because I don't want to butcher it. But thank you so much for joining us, Paulina Stevens.
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Paulina, and I come from the Machwaye Romani community.
And I practiced that like 6 times before we started, but then I got nervous and I just wanted you to say it because I didn't want to say it wrong. I think it's really important to start off by talking about the culture of the ethnicity as a whole. I know that's very important to you. You're one who would, I guess people in our comments usually say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You definitely did not do that. You kept some of the practices and the teachings alive. You do keep them alive within your life. And so we want to make sure we're not blanket statementing an entire culture, an entire group of people. So go ahead and explain what you would like to about that.
So Romani, people may know us as gypsies, and gypsy is actually an ethnic slur, just for people listening, but we are a diasporic ethnic group, and we originated from India around 1,000 years ago. We actually, our community was forced out of India because of war and slavery and genocide. And that is kind of how we became travelers throughout so many years. And we also developed many cultural trades like singing, dancing, horse trading, silversmiths, and fortune telling, which is something that my community actually still practice. So I do hail from a fortune telling community. But yeah, we also practice arranged marriages, as well as very conservative gender roles.
Yeah, we're going to dive into all of that. Let's talk about your childhood then. So you were born in Los Angeles at Cedars-Sinai, which is like the major hospital, the best one you could say to be born at in LA. Let's talk about the way you were raised.
Growing up in LA was really cool as a kid. My family traveled up and down the Central Coast. Even though I was born in Beverly Hills, my life was definitely not like Beverly Hills. Although sometimes it was pretty cool, filled with a lot of parties and drinking and family, culture, community. I will say I come from a beautiful culture with colors and amazing cuisine, and everybody is pretty tight knit and close and real. And there's also this kind of shared, I think, trauma that we go through as the Roma community in general. But it was nice growing up with all of that beauty in my culture and my community. We also have a language that is Sanskrit based, so even our language is pretty like unique. Good parts were good, and the bad parts were bad.
Yeah, every group that we're going to talk about on here is not all bad. There's always going to be some goodness, some things that we can take away, some practices that you may even want to continue on. But we're here to talk about and shine light on the things that are more manipulative, controlling, and abusive. So we appreciate you coming on and sharing, and also sharing both sides of the spectrum. So, what are some of the things that you noticed growing up that you want to talk about today?
The things I would like to talk about are pretty rooted in old conservative tradition like arranged teen marriage, arranged child marriage. That was something that I experienced myself. I was also taken out of school very young. I really barely went to elementary school. I would go in for some months, leave for some months. Again, that was really difficult, especially in today's society. I wasn't allowed to work any other job or trade besides fortune telling. I took a break from that for a couple of years, but surprisingly, I kind of found my way back into it. After years of being a break, I just incorporated kind of my own wellness to it. And I would also love to talk about kind of how we have our own laws and our own system and our own rules that are really just a big room full of Roma men that kind of decide what should happen and who should go where. We're not really allowed to. We get shunned or we get um we call it blackballed is kind of the English translation from our community if we decide to go to outside sources for anything really. Sometimes it could be domestic violence. In my case, it was a little bit of everything. It was domestic violence. It was fighting for custody of my children, which I'm still actually doing today. So although I'm technically out of my community, I am still in a way, I don't know what to call it, but being harassed by some people in my community. But yeah, it doesn't deter me. I'd still do it all the same.
Yeah. So let's start with the early childhood education, because that'll probably play into more of your story later. So, what was the reason behind them pulling you out of school or putting you in and pulling you out?
I'm sorry if I kind of will go back to history for these questions, but it
No,
really
that's
explains.
okay.
Okay, I have to give the context. And so, Roma community were also amongst one of the main targeted groups during the Holocaust. So, a big majority of Roma here in America came here during basically the Holocaust and tried to escape as well. And then another group, so actually half of my family came here as refugees during the Holocaust. And before that, the other half of my family came here in the late 1800s. Yeah, basically as slaves. And so
Wow.
the Roma, yeah, Roma have a very deep rooted traumatic history in how they usually ended up in the United States. If you can imagine during those times, because we were treated so badly by like the outside world, we say gadre. I don't really know what to say. Like, I don't even know the English translation. Basically, it's anybody who is not a Roma is gadre. We were treated so badly by outside society that we decided to keep a very close knit society and continue all of those practices. Even teen and child arranged marriages was something that was done in order to prevent like our daughters from being raped by slave owners. So they would marry them off younger in order to kind of have possibly help prevent, if they had a husband, maybe they wouldn't get, raped by a slave owner. So there's all of that context that needs to be provided. So why we were in such a close knit community and why we didn't go to school is because after so many years, I mean, if you think about it, it's only a few generations. All of this is still instilled in them that, like, if you send your kids to school, like, they're away from you, they're not protected. If you send your kids to school, they're learning the outsider ways, which don't match up with our ways. These people and this system and this government was built against us. And some of that stuff may be true, and some of that stuff was true, especially at the time. There's still anti-Romani task force and laws that exist today. But because of this, Roma have continued to stick in their kind of insular, close-knit ways. Not all Roma. Like you said, I do not speak for all Roma, and I want to make that very clear. I come from a small conservative subgroup.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought up that context because it does give more information as to why things are the way that they are. And now that we are in a different time, we can talk about the ways in which those old ways may not be serving the community anymore and the ways in which they're potentially doing damage to those who are still involved, even though the intention was initially good. So, with the education, they're worried about being taught outside ways. So, what would be an example of something that they wouldn't want you to learn in public school?
Sex education is one thing. They do not want Romani people learning about sex education because they also do not want Romani people dating outside the community or a cult or their culture. That's considered a risk. It's considered taboo. It's also considered like race mixing, which is very against the community, which is super crazy because I do have to tell you, although Romani people do have their own, ethnic DNA, like we are, our own group. If somebody in the community is adopted or if somebody in the community does not have any of our actual blood, they are completely accepted in the community, which is like super crazy. There's obviously still racism. So they, if there's someone that like does not look like Romani people, which Romani people range from light skin to dark skin and range from many different cultures and community. But if they look kind of far or kind of off of Romani people, then they receive more backlash. But what I've seen is that although this heavy racism and colorism does exist within the community, a lot of the times it is overlooked if you're are grown up from a child in the community.
Interesting. Yeah, the person who we interviewed, she was adopted in. So, with the education, how are you feeling as a child? Are you wanting school? Are you excited to be taken out and go do other things? Or what are your thoughts at that time?
As a child, I definitely wanted more school. I loved learning, I loved reading, and I would have loved to have a supportive family when it came to schooling and education, but that wasn't the case. There were times where I was glad that I didn't go to school because that's what was told to me, like, oh, you're not going to school today. Like, oh, that's great, blah, blah, blah. Or I haven't been to school for 2 weeks. It was something that I kind of blocked out. Like it was in the back of my mind, like I'm only going to school to learn how to read and write. And then after I learned how to read and write, my family was like, you don't really need to know anything else. Like that's all you need to know to get by. And I was like, okay, it was partially true, I guess. No, not exactly. But I will say that I felt left out. Kids my age were doing different things. I was like passing out cards and giving readings and trying to do fortune telling on the street as a kid. And so I was like making money, hustling, but at the same time, I was also partying. At 13 years old, I was out partying, I was out doing certain things, and that was not good for a kid. But I also feel like I was with my parents, I was with my cousins, I was with my family. So there was this kind of level of closeness, and we're singing and we're dancing and we're all storytelling. So there was, I think, some stuff that I would not change. I
Mhm.
do wish I had more, more education.
Yeah, so I'm really interested in the fortune telling aspect. How young were you when you learned how to do this?
Yeah, so fortune telling was something I started doing as soon as I could talk. Like it's something we practice very young. We try to learn tarot cards, things like that. There's also a dark side of fortune telling where and again, this is another side effect of, discrimination and racism and sexism and just all the things that so many people experience. But crime is something that minority, low income families sometimes resort to. And that was something that, what I did experience in certain families, including the one that I got married into as well. But crime is in the ways like, if you don't do this, we're going to put a curse on you, or not we're going to put a curse on you, but more like you have a curse on you, and like give us so much money and we'll do this, blah, blah, blah. And then you get saved. So although there was a positive and good aspect to the fortune telling and the wellness that we provided, I will say that I was definitely exposed to a good amount of that kind of crime within some families and within some part of the community, which I do talk about and speak out against in my book. It's actually called Secrets of Romani Fortune Telling, that I wrote with my co-author. And we also have a podcast where we uplift Romani voices, but we talk about fortune telling, the origins, and as well as the negative sides of the practice.
So do I have it correct that it was more of an exploitative thing once you already got someone in and you were telling their fortune? You would almost say, well, there's this thing that is hovering over you, and if you pay me X amount, I'll get rid of it.
Sometimes it would be that way. Sometimes it wouldn't. For some communities, it was like that. For some communities, it wasn't. I will say that.
Okay.
It was very much like that for, I would say, the community that I married into, like the family that I married into.
Okay. Let's talk about the religious side of things, because was it true for your subgroup that Christianity was a staple?
Actually, I was raised Catholic. So Catholicism was the main religion that was practiced, although Christianity was like second to that. And Romani people have a very different way that they go about religion, although we still practice, like, I would say some of our practices are still from, ancient India, like from where we originated. We practice a lot of we have a lot of Greek Orthodox holidays that we still practice, a lot of Catholic holidays. We praise sometimes gods that are New Age versions of Indian and Hindu gods. And we also still make certain like sacrifices. We do something called a sla or a slava, where we light a candle, we pick a certain animal to sacrifice. So our religion is not really even the base of, it's not really the base of, I think, our system, I would say.
Yeah, it seems like a patchwork of many different things. And the reason I brought that up is because I know that a lot of Christian denominations view tarot cards as evil. And so I wondered how that, obviously that wasn't the case for you, so how that kind of worked in with your religious beliefs.
Yeah, so Roma actually even fight about this in our own community. So there's some Roma that do believe that and are like, we don't deal with, Roma that do fortune telling, or they just say like, my daughter's not going to be married into a fortune telling like gypsy family or something like that. And although the viewers might be hearing me say gypsy, it's just a term that I prefer to use myself a lot. And so for the viewers listening, that's kind of what I call myself. But that's how it was. It was very much, it really depended on the family and the person.
Wow, that's so interesting. So tarot is very complicated, and you're learning this at a really young age. Did it all make sense to you? Is it something that you studied almost like someone would study the Bible? Are studying the meanings and how the cards kind of play off of each other?
When it came to tarot, it was tarot and other palm reading, face reading, energy reading, like just reading people's energy in general. There was a lot of pressure. So it was like, you have to give this reading. You can either memorize these things or you could just say what you feel. Look at the card and what do you feel? And it was very much like that. And then go outside and, try to make $10, $15, like whatever you can make. Go make some money, come back. And sometimes it'd be like, well, if you don't make money today, or if we don't make money today, like on the street, we're not going to eat. And so I was very pressured into it. And it was all so fun. Like it just a bunch of cards with a bunch of pictures on them. And, it was fun hustling most of the time. It was fun learning. You would always learn from everybody. It was a more female dominated field, although some men do practice it. That's just how it was. People are going to hear me saying men and women a lot. It's a very gender roles and like old community like that. So there's, no
room for a spectrum.
Exactly. No room for gender spectrum in there.
Yeah. So let's talk about those roles a little bit. What were the women expected to do? What were the men expected to do?
Women were expected in my community to do fortune telling. We were also expected to kind of cook, clean, wake up early, and take care of the kids and kind of do everything. All the pressure was under us all the time. And so there was that. Sometimes, a lot of the time, there was always parties going on. Roma stick together. So in one household, there'd be 10 people, 15 people, 20, 30, 100, 200, like literally that range. It could be 5 guests or 100 guests one day. Also, Roma don't work traditional hours. And so, we're working in the evenings when people get off work. We're working on the weekends. Like it's kind of like an entertainment slash. I'm not Fortune telling is not therapy, but for a lot of clients, sometimes it would feel like that. We're the people that they come, to talk to kind of about these things. We're also spiritual gurus to a degree, depending on what we're doing, depending on the person. Basically, women were working, cleaning, cooking, doing everything. Okay. And the men, it would be extremely rare to see a man washing dishes in our community. It was very, very rare and it was very looked down upon. Men are not to iron their own clothes, they're not to wash the dishes. Like there's definitely a lot of just old school BS. Am I allowed to say bad words in here or no?
Yeah, that's fine.
I am. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So at an early age, are you noticing any of this? Are you seeing how hard your mom is working or the women around you?
I was. So I was noticing that my parents sometimes would do things together. My mom took on the most of everything, but sometimes my dad would try to contribute, try like buying and selling cars or doing restoring classic cars to kind of help. But it was still like my mom's responsibility. And I always felt like that was weird. And my mom had a super crazy amount of stress and pressure on her. And I experienced that later on. But I never understood everything that she went through until I went through it myself.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. You are 14 and you get engaged. How did that happen? Were you excited about it? Terrified? What's going on in your head?
I did not want to get married so young. My father was diagnosed with cancer for a second time. So I guess I don't have to talk about all those details, but basically, for a second time, he was diagnosed with cancer. And that was very much the pressure that I was receiving is that, we want to know who you're going to get married to. We want to know where you're going to be. We know these people. Fun fact, it was actually my cousin who was the arranged marriage. Yeah, so there's a lot of intermarriage that goes on, like distant cousin, but not that distant. And so it was what it was. I was very pressured into it. It was like, well, your dad's gonna die. They were like, if you don't want to do this, that's okay, but just know that we are gonna be very devastated.
Yeah.
And you're probably gonna end up old and unmarried, and you're gonna bring shame to your family and shame to your father.
Yeah. So it's not really a choice.
No.
Yeah. So what's this process like?
I was going to say, I don't want to get it mixed up with forced marriage. So I could still physically walk away, but I was a child. But it's different from people that when it is an arranged marriage, it's something that you still kind of go along with or agree with. At the time, I feel like I was too young to consent to marriage, but I did still. So there was some level of consent that was involved.
So they tell you, hey, you're going to marry your cousin. Does he come over? Do you have a chat? Do you get to have any sort of courtship?
So we secretly talk to each other on the phone and get to know each other. But our parents actually don't want us physically meeting each other because they want us to stay a virgin. So we're like secretly meeting each other or going out literally just to get to know each other. It's super crazy. And in between this time, like we're still both children, There was a lot of how is a 14-year-old going to be in a nice, good relationship? Like that's crazy to suspect that. And when children have like problems in their beginning marriages, when you're married at 15, 16, 17, 18, like whatever, and you have problems in your relationship, you're so judged by the community, especially the elder people in the community, even people your age. They're like, the kids these days, like they just can't stay married or they can't make it work or they can't do this, they can't do that. And it's just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, you're still trying to figure out who you are. I don't think I figured that out till I was like 30. So
For
I can't
reals.
imagine being 14 and being expected to make a marriage work forever. That's just insanity to me. So you don't want to get married. You're trying to get to know this guy that you're supposed to marry. When it actually comes time for it, is that when they finally give you the official sex education of, by the way, this is what you're supposed to do now?
Nobody gives you shit, to be honest with you.
Still, when you get married, they're just like, figure it
Still,
out?
literally, like they just kind of expect us to know. I remember, yeah, they just kind of expect us to know. I remember I had like a group of maybe like 4 or 5 girl cousins in a room one time, and we had like a computer in there, and they were like putting on to like literally figure out sex
Wow.
and like showing me, and like you're just kind of expected to know like by your slightly older cousins that barely know, you know. And then I think I've had an aunt tell me once, like, always pee after you have sex. Like that was some of the best advice I've ever gotten to this day.
That's good advice.
But yeah, she told me that like right before my wedding, like, okay, great. Just, yeah, you're kind of just expected like to randomly know or like learn or ask questions or figure it out on your own. But your parents cannot talk to you about that. My mom would tell me, don't have kids, don't have kids. But my dad really wanted kids and grandchildren. And then my in-laws were very much like, we need to have kids right now. So yeah.
That's interesting that your mom was telling you not to. Why do you think that was?
I think my mom was really worried for me. She probably struggled with the arranged marriage the most. She did not want me to leave my family and get married into this new family because she knew how difficult it was. But at the very same time, when it came to the point that I did want to leave just the marriage, not the whole community and culture, she wanted me to stay. So I feel like, I mean, I'm not really sure. I just know it was difficult for her at that time. And she knew that kids would kind of, I guess, trap me, which has happened.
Yeah, wow. So, holy cow, 14, married, have no idea what sex is supposed to be like. And we don't have to go into detail if you don't want to. I imagine it must have been a little bit of a train wreck to try and figure out. Was your husband at the time, was he also underage?
He was 18, so I was 17, he was 18.
Okay, by the time you got married. Got it.
Yeah, like he had more experience than I did, so we just kind of like, and that's the other thing, like boys can actually even date godre, like outsider women, and it's
What?
very accepted. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
What?
men can go out to the bar, literally pick up women, sleep with different women, and it's just very, very accepted. It's absolutely crazy. Super crazy. But you can't get seen with those women with people from your community, but you can see, like, if as long as they're guys, like guys are gonna do that. They go out with women, they text women, they have girlfriends, they have families. Real old school shit. They have families. And but again, I don't speak for all Roma. This was only my specific community, the Gypsies of Orange County, California. I got married in and moved to Costa Mesa. That's the way it was. But what's super crazy is my family wasn't like that. I mean, some of that was practiced maybe a little bit on my dad's side, but definitely not like that all over, like across the board.
So, were you expected to be a virgin?
I was, and I was, but at the same time, it was like I definitely felt like that part was like wrong and super crazy. You know what I mean? Like you're expected to be a virgin, but like we had met each other and saw each other a couple times before we got married. So it wasn't like I was a virgin on my wedding day, but you know what I mean? Like he was the only
Mhm.
person that I was with at the time. Yeah, like it wasn't really probably as traditional as they'd liked it to be, but it was what it is. They don't like check. Some Roma communities in other old countries like literally check if you're a virgin, which like there's all that stupid science about the
Yes.
hymen and all that bullshit. But yeah.
Yeah, which isn't even really a thing because it can break at any time unrelated to sex or penetration. Whole topic for another day. So, wow, double standards. So, you actually get married when you're 17. So, you're engaged at 14. married at 17. Let's talk about what that looked like, the actual marriage. Did you get your own place, or what was that like?
I had to move into my ex-husband's family's house. So I moved in with them, his grandmother, his two brothers, and for some periods of time, there were other people living with us, other cousins of his and things like that. So we had a bedroom, but for the first couple of months, we couldn't even sleep together because there was other people living with us. And so I had to sleep with one of his cousins in the bed for a while. He was going out, drinking, partying, doing things like that almost every night.
Is that something that he would have been kind of given the talking to about, or is that just normal?
That was normal. And as soon as we had like our official wedding, which we weren't legally married, that's another thing. They don't practice legal marriages because that like gives the women too much say over if something happens with property. All property is to be put in the man's name. All stuff is going to be put in the man's name. Everything belongs to the man. But basically, they pay a dowry. But as soon as they pay the dowry, it's not practiced the way that it's meant to be, the way that it's traditionally practiced. As soon as you get paid for, the women by the man's family will give the woman's family some money. They literally told me, they were like, we own you now. And the English translation is, we are your landlord. So they would say, oh, mesemo gazda, which means we are your landlord. We own like the rights over you. We own your body. We own what you do, what you say, what you wear, how you look, who you talk to. Everything is controlled at that point. And that's what was said to me on my wedding night.
Yikes. Are you having a freak out moment when this happens?
Yeah, totally. Like I still have PTSD right now. My cheeks are getting all red.
Oof.
But it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, that's a lot. All of a sudden you feel like you're in an actual cage and there's nothing you can do about it.
And the real truth is at 17, right after that was said to me, like I instantly had like my heart drop into my gut. But the reality is that I couldn't really go anywhere else. Like I just had this wedding, like all this shit just went down and I can't go back to my family because I am going to be ashamed. You know, one thing is like once you have a wedding and go back home, like you've had sex before, like and you're just kind of looked down upon as well. So I was like, okay, like this is super crazy. Our weddings are 3 days long, by the way.
Whoa.
Yeah, there's a lot of partying, a lot of things that go into this, a lot of spiritual ceremony, a lot of religious ceremony, like all different, you know, because we practice so many different things. There's like a million different parts of the ceremony that we have to do. It felt like I was stuck either way. Like I couldn't go home and I couldn't be here. And another thing, I came from a very poor family. And I married into a very rich family. So there's tons of differences from rich Roma family and poor Roma family.
Yeah, what were some of those culture shocks that you experienced once you married in?
In the family that I married into, they practice more high risk, maybe crime and schemes, and they play very dirty. Like there's a more like cutthroat attitude when you are marrying into this high profile family. I would say like my parents, even though I also experienced abuse as a child, I don't feel like my family was very like vicious, you know? And I would say that when I married into this family, there was a more financial hustle and like viciousness that you have to have in life and in general. And my ex-mother-in-law, her name was Ruby, she really engraved that into me. And I actually am the way I am now, I would say a big part because of her. I think my mom was more nurturing, a little bit more nurturing. And I would say Ruby was very like vicious and hustle, which some of that I still take with me. But there was also this thing she would always say. And she was like, it was when her son would like go out or you know, I would see messages from other women. Even though you're young and you're taught that that's supposed to be okay, there would be this stigma, like, you know, that you'd still hurt by it. You know what I mean? Like you would still be hurt by it. Like you're with this person, you're still in a relationship with this person. She would always say, like, whenever you feel emotional, turn it off. And she would snap her fingers, like, turn it off, turn it off. Like that's what I had to do. And she would always tell this story that was like, my mother ran away into the Gadre. Like her mother ran away like with this, other person, like this outside. So she fell in love with someone outside of the community, and women are not allowed to take their children with them. Women are not allowed to get a divorce at all. So she would always say, like, my mother did that. It was the ultimate betrayal, and I didn't even go to her funeral. And like, that was just her story. Like all the time, she would always remind me of that. Like, you have to be that tough and you have to cut out people just like that, even on their deathbed, even when they're dying, if they, did something that they don't disagree with.
Wow, that's pretty extreme. I mean, just in general, saying not to feel your feelings. Did you feel really stifled? I mean, it comes out eventually, right? Did you feel like you were able to express emotions in any capacity, even if it's when you're by yourself?
I would cry alone in the bathroom. Like, I would cry in front of my ex-husband. It felt wrong, but you can't hold it in. And then after a certain point, I didn't cry anymore. Like, I just really went numb. It took me a long time to feel again. Like, it's something that took me a while.
Wow. So I know that you had kids really early. Is this something you felt pressured into doing? Were you allowed to use birth control?
I was not allowed to use birth control. It's something my mom had told me. I would also get in trouble for even talking to my moms. If I talked to my mom, one time I talked to her for 30 minutes straight, like a month or two after I got married, and they're like, "Why are you talking to your mom all the time?" And my ex-mother-in-law, Ruby, and John Paul, they would both complain that I was talking to her like too much and just all this
She's your
crazy stuff.
mom.
Crazy, crazy. I was not allowed to do that. If I did talk to her, it would be on a sneak. I had to secretly talk to my mom, which was super crazy. Another thing was I would experience, like, I guess, assault or like sexual assault, like from my ex-father-in-law. He would just being drunk, but that was highly accepted. So like he would grab my face and like slobber and like kiss me all over, or like grab my
What?
private parts. Grab
That
my
was
private part.
accepted?
Highly accepted, yes, because they say that like he's just an older man and you just have to accept that because that's just what happens. And like my family didn't do that. Like I didn't, like my immediate family, even my extended family, like we didn't really do that. So when I spent more time with his family, that was happening a lot more. Even when I would tell Ruby, I'd be like, yeah, like he's a lot, like he's grabbing me a lot. And then she'd just be, oh, he's drunk, or like, it's okay. That's how he shows you attention. That's how he shows love. Like that's what he does.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, that's gross, especially that the wife is okay with it somehow.
Yeah, super weird.
I think you were about to finish a thought, or maybe you finished it and I didn't catch on. I think you were talking about your mom telling you how to not get pregnant.
Oh, yeah, I totally went off on a tangent. I'm so sorry.
That's
So,
okay.
yeah, basically, my mom would tell me, like, try to get on birth control. I brought that up to Ruby and my ex, Bobby, and they were like, no, no birth control. Like, we want to have a grandson right now. Ended up happening, like, I was like, okay, I guess. And then my dad is like, I have cancer. I want to see grandkids before I die. I'm like, okay, like, all this pressure.
Yeah.
Bobby's grandmother was also dying. And so I was like, everybody's dying and everybody wants to see me have a kid. And so I ended up having two children kind of back to back. I got pregnant at 18 and then had a baby at 19, pregnant again at like 20. I think I had a baby at 21 or 20. Yeah, I was 19 and 20. So I was pregnant again at 19, had the baby at 20. And basically, I had two girls. So that was like, oh, like we need a son. We need a son. And then when I had my girls, I realized I never want them to experience this life. Like it was wrong and it was screwed up.
Wow.
So yeah.
How was it taking care of a child when you're still basically a child yourself, trying to figure out this environment? You're in these toxic places that give you absolutely no freedom, and now you have to take care of children. Did you get help?
Yeah, so what was crazy is that like I think I stayed for so long. I was married for maybe 5 years or so, 5 or 6, because there's so much that they offer you. There is this level of like, well, we'll watch the baby for you. Me and my ex got into a fight one day and like they instantly were like, we'll take the babies and you guys go to Vegas. Here's $1,000. Like just drive to Vegas, come back. Like 10 years ago, that was a lot. You know what I mean? Like there was just a lot to leverage. They would help us with money for traveling. They would help buy clothes. Like they would definitely support us having the baby, but as long as we raised it their way. So I was living in their house, had to raise the baby their way. There would also be times where we disagreed on things. I was like, well, the baby's sick and I need to do this. Grandparents would be like, well, we need to do it our way, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I never had a say in how I wanted my children to be raised. So much so that I did move out very briefly into a house down the street after a few years of marriage. And I hired a nanny because I was also working all day long, like literally all day long, 12, 13, 14, 15-hour days. I would hire a nanny to come with me, bring the babies, watch the babies, like work, take care of the babies. And then if for some reason I wanted to let the nanny stay home with the baby, they would come and pick up the baby. Like that was not allowed. There was a lot of help, but also with a price.
Yeah, conditional help.
Mm-hmm.
Did they not believe in doctors, or what did you mean when you said the baby was sick and they wanted to handle it their way?
They would believe in doctors for sure. And their beliefs really varied. Like 1 month they'd really be into natural medicine, and then the next month they'd be really into like non-natural medicine. I will also tell you guys, just for some insight, this is a strong, also politically Republican, conservative Trump supporters, just so people can have a little bit of an idea. These are not people that support, women's rights, women's health care, women in general. Like, this is the family that I was dealing with.
How old were you when you realized I cannot do this? You mentioned your daughters. You didn't want them growing up in that environment. What was the final straw for you enough to get you to go over the edge, knowing that you may lose your children in the process of leaving?
This is going to sound maybe, not that great, but a lot of it was pop culture. I don't want to disappoint anybody. I was really inspired by pop culture. Like I was so inspired by movies and songs and music where people and artists, women dressing the way they want, doing what they want, working where they wanted to, and people in general, like just people having freedom and education. I used to love like radio shows and podcasts back in the day. Like, that was always something that I was into. And I felt like I started to see similarities between high controlling groups and the family that I was living with, and also old practices that were practiced throughout the community. And it just felt so wrong.
I think that's a great answer, because it just goes to show that education is everything, and that in some ways they were right, that the outside world would corrupt you in a way that would make you want to change your behavior or get out of the group. And so, yeah, art is so important and culture is so important. And it's good that that exposure is what helped you understand that it could be different, that it didn't have to be the way that you were living.
Yeah. I will also say, like, things got so bad at so many points. Before I gave birth, I had to wash 10 whole raw chickens. Like, literally, like 12, I don't know, 12, 15 hours before I gave birth, I had to wash 10 chickens. Like, that was what I was doing that day. And I was in pain. And like it was being asked of me, and like I really didn't want to say no. So I was like, I think at the last couple chickens, I was like, I don't think I could finish this. Like, I'm not feeling so good. If things were not so bad, so some families don't have it as bad, but they obviously still don't know that they're being like controlled and coerced, and just they could be so much happier. And even when I struggle now, like when I struggle today, I choose these struggles. Like I'll take these struggles any day over like the struggles that I used to go to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Was there a definitive day that you packed up your stuff and just ran away, or was it a slow transition out?
Oh my gosh, it was a slow transition for sure. It was back and forth, slow transition. One thing that really broke the ice for me was when I did leave my relationship, I really wanted custody of my children. That was the first horrible thing in the community that I did. I'm saying that sarcastically, but like to them, that was horrible. I did go and get an attorney, which I had planned just in case they didn't want to give me my children. first I had planned to share the kids, which is also something that's not practiced in the community. But I was like, if you guys don't share the kids, we are going to go to court. And I was like, and I don't care. Like, I don't care if you blackball me. Like, I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? So basically, they didn't return the kids for a whole month at one point, and I didn't know where they were. I almost blacked out that whole month. First, it happened for 8 days, and that's when I retained an attorney, and then it happened for a month. That was like, because I retained an attorney, they decided like they were going to take them away forever. They had threatened them to take them away to Mexico. Like, there was just all this crazy stuff. And at that point, my own family was like, you should just give the kids up. Like, you don't want to be with them. You don't want to be there. Like, just give the kids up. Some family members were saying, like, you should go to court and fight for your kids, blah, blah, blah. But they were like, you have to give them the majority. Like, you can only have like a few hours with the kids, like every month or so. Like, some weird, crazy schedule. And I was like, everybody's screwed up. You guys are screwed up. You guys are screwed up. Like, I'm out of here. And that was, I think, the time that I was really like, I really can care less about what people say, what people do. After that, I also was dating outside my community, and I was like just experiencing different things. And I was like, whoa, like some men believe that they do help with housework or childcare or this or that. Or like, I was experiencing so many different feelings and thoughts and emotions that were much better. Like, I don't have to keep my phone on me 24/7. I don't have to do this. I could wear what I want. I also had to wear a head covering. That was another thing.
So to make sure I understand, they believe in their ways, traditions, culture so deeply that no matter which parent decides to leave, it's expected that you leave the children so the children can be raised in that way.
Yes, so the children have to be raised in the Romani community. So whoever leaves has to leave the children, but especially women and mothers do not get the children. They do not get a say, and they do not get their children, period.
How does that even make sense when the woman is expected to do all the child raising and then the woman's expected to give the kids up to the fathers who've never done anything?
Because usually there is a woman in the community that will take the children. So that will usually the mother, the sister-in-law, like there's someone. And if not, the children are raised by their father.
So dad is a last resort. Wow. Dad is the last resort. So, okay. Interesting.
Well, I will tell you. So one of my uncles, he raised his children. He has 2 autistic children that he raised on his own. I believe at some point their mom wanted to have custody of them, and he was really against that because she had abandoned them for a little while. But there's all these societal pressures that I'm sure that she had as well, and also the toll that it took on her own mental health. But I will say that it doesn't happen all the time. He raised his own children, and I feel like dads are stepping up more now a little bit in society. But the way and the reason that they're stepping up, obviously, I still don't agree with it. I want to say stepping up to the bare minimum, literally.
Wow. So what was it like, this whole battle with not only your community, your mother-in-law, his whole family, everybody?
It was horrible. Everybody was against me. I was blackballed from the community, which I kind of liked at the time. It was nice not to be talking to anybody like all the time. But the court custody battle was horrific. The things that they said about me, the words that they used, the things that they're still saying stuff today that it's just completely horrible, untrue, not true. It always feels like I am somehow, like a part of me is somehow still like stuck back there, or like they're always going to come get me. I have nightmares of them like breaking into my house, or just stuff like that.
How old were the children when you went to court?
Like 2 and 3.
Oh, that's hard.
Yeah, it was difficult, but at the same time, they don't remember all of it. So it wasn't the worst for them. Now it's horrible. We're still in court after all these years.
How long has it been?
7 years. My kids are 9 and 10. I'll tell you something. They bring me to court every year on some kind of nonsense thing. Every single year they bring me to court. We've had 4 different like deep custody evaluations, which, knock on wood, after these custody evaluations are, finished or done being investigated, I end up getting custody back of my children. But they claim the most horrific things, and the courts are like, well, until an investigation is done, the kids are going to be placed with their dad. So sometimes for a couple of months, while these investigations are going on, they're with their dad. This is every single year this happens. And so my ex was actually sanctioned for $10,000 for wasting the court's time just a couple years ago.
Jeez.
Crazy. Super crazy.
Were you granted full custody, or have you been granted yearly? Or how's that been?
This was a horrible thing on my part. So at first I was granted 100% sole custody. And then I was still technically in my culture, and my family forced me to give them 50% custody. So then I signed a document and I gave them 50% custody, which I totally regret doing. It was super horrible. And then I had to go back to court. We both went back to court. They kept calling the cops on me, because I was dating outside the community. They did not want the girls dealing with an American person, American man especially. So they made a whole bunch of false claims about us both. And so I had to go back to court again, and I won 80% custody. So that's where it's been at all this time. But like I said, we still go back and forth every year. They're always filing something, claiming something. Something's always going on.
That is exhausting. I am so sorry that you have to deal with that.
Thank you. But remember, they also have money. So they had 4 attorneys. I actually represented myself for the past 2 years, and I just got another attorney recently. But yeah.
And I'm sure it's exhausting for your kids as well to have to live through this. I mean, you don't have to speak on their behalf. I just imagine it would be really difficult.
I will tell you what really hurts my feelings a lot is my kids actually just told this to me. They said that basically we are ashamed of you because you are in the Gadre, and our family, my dad's family, believes that you're bringing shame to me and my sisters, and we're embarrassed of you when we go to our dad's house. We don't want to tell people that we talk to you.
Oh, man, it got to them, the culture, the community. I mean, you're far outnumbered. How could it not seep in some capacity? That's so heartbreaking, though, and I hope that you can get through to them. And I mean, they're kids, it's so hard.
They go so far because there's also, remember, this deep-rooted spirituality and superstition that they have. So when my kids leave my house and go to their dad's house, they make them take showers. They make them take their clothes off and put them in a bag and take their shoes off. And they have to remove all their clothes because they believe that I have a bad energy over me. And that's what they tell them. They tell them, your mom is the bad luck. Your mom is the brigaza. Your mom is the bad. And you must, take all this stuff off and clean her, before you continue your day or do this or do that. So that's how deep rooted it is for my children. And I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? So I'm not doing that when they come back from their dad's house. And so there's this strong level of for one, parental alienation, but also cultural, I don't even know what it's called, imprisonment that it's brainwashing, realistically, is what it is. And weird little things happen. They'll go on my Instagram, their stepmom or other people, especially the grandmother Ruby. She's always looking at my social media or listening to my content because I'm an activist now, but will say things like, oh, your mom is so ugly. Look at these pictures. Your mom is so ugly. And so she's bad luck, she's ugly, she's this, she's that. And so there's also that weird, well, this is what an ugly person looks like. This is what an ugly person does. So it's hard for them not to be so consumed when they're so consumed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's interesting is, because I went to your page when I was doing some research and I was like, wait, I'm not sure if she did leave her community because it feels very pro. And usually when we do interviews with people and you go on their page, it's very clear that they have left a religion or a group. It's because you explained earlier in the beginning, you are still very proud of your ethnicity and some of the traditions you hold very dear. And that's amazing. And so for me, I find it really interesting that even though you're still doing all of that pro-Romani, helping people understand the culture, advocacy work, they're still so against you.
Exactly. So there's a huge support group outside of the Romani community. And I think the reason why it's so confusing for people is because it's not a religion and it's not the other thing that you said, like a group. It's not technically like a group or a religion. Like it's because it is an ethnicity. So it's never something I could take out of me. Like this is our blood, like to a degree. Like you can't stop being Mexican or like you can't stop being European, like you know what I mean? Like we can't take our ethnicity out of us, but at the same time, it is a very intricate, intertwined group of people. And Roma exists. We don't actually have a country. So genetically, Roma people are not the majority of like South Asia or India or where we came from 1,000 years ago. Genetically, we are a mix of all of our travels. And so it is our beliefs as well. So I advocate for people inside the community, like how I was and how I grew up, but I also advocate for people that are outside the community. And I also realize that people in the community are the way that they are because of the outside world and because of the persecution that they received over so many years. So that's why I feel like if we could stop all the persecution from the outside, then maybe that can help a little bit from the inside. But I especially like to advocate to end the bad traditions that are inside the community as well.
Yeah, it's a very layered and complex discussion. So I think you're the perfect person to have on to talk about it. So, wow, 7 years this has been going on, trying to maintain normalcy, trying to be an advocate, trying to survive, do what you do while you're being attacked still. And they're still harassing you outside of using your children.
Literally, I am still being harassed. There is a situation where I had driven in front of my ex-husband's house. I've never actually visited the house once he had moved. And we've had all these pickups and drop-offs. I had hired a private investigator at one point to see where my children were living, and they were not living where they said they were living. So I drove in front of the house just like to verify like that they were even there. And also there was like some child support stuff going on. There was a lot of cars for sale in front of the house. And I was like, this is to prove that they're still buying and selling cars. And so, you guys can totally pay child support. So basically, my boyfriend had just taken a picture all the way out on the street in front of in front of the house. Also, I am dating someone who is not Romani, not Gypsy. And so he receives a lot of I receive a lot of backlash because of that, and he does as well. My ex father-in-law John Paul comes out of the house running and screaming and saying just a whole bunch of crazy stuff. This is all also caught on video, and he runs in front of the car and he's like, you guys don't belong here, you don't belong here, get out of this town, you're trying to run me over, call the cops. And then everyone from the house, 10 people come out of the house and they're like, he's trying to run him over, and he's literally reversing the car. The cops come and the cops see the video and they're like, you guys are the victims in this, we're so sorry about all this. But the reason why I talk about that situation is because it's just a very common type of thing that would happen in a very common type of situation. These people are so afraid of the outside community and so afraid of me. They have said to my daughters, how is it that one little girl is making this whole community afraid and scared? What are they so afraid of? Some people going to school, or their main thing is they don't want any of their women having sex with outsiders. Why is that your biggest fear? And they tell you you're going to get a disease, you're going to get an STD, you're going to get this, you're going to get sick. Not that it's cursed, but it is it's bad luck and it's gross and you're considered unclean and muddy meh. That's the word that they use for basically shunned and unclean spiritually, mentally, all of these things.
Wow. That's a lot. It's a lot for you. It's a lot for your kids to try and handle and navigate through both situations. They probably feel stuck in the middle. And did you put them in public school then?
Of course I did. So I definitely put them in public school. Hopefully it sticks, but I take them to like drum lessons, gymnastic lessons. They've had guitar lessons. Like they're each into different things. You know what I mean? My one daughter likes math, and so put her in mathnasium. But like, I think they both kind of, I want them to just explore like their artistic or, you know, education or like whatever it is that they need to explore. Like that's my whole goal. But it's hard sometimes. Sometimes it's sticking and sometimes they're like, well, we only want to be fortune teller like our dad says, and we don't care about our dreams anymore. Sometimes they come back literally saying that. Like and it's devastating and like we don't actually really care about school. We're just going to school because you're making us go to school. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, we just want to be homeschooled, which is totally code. I was homeschooled, and I'm saying that with air quotes. They enroll us in homeschool just for the legality of it, and then give us the answers and are like, here, like, this is your schooling. It's so hard. That's all. Like, it's so difficult, but I didn't have even one person, helping me kind of navigate the outside world or telling me that an outside world exists. So I hope even if they have me supporting them in whatever path or life they choose, if they know that there's always someone here to support them in whatever journey they want to pursue, maybe that might be good enough to save them.
That's so important. And I think that's the best thing you can do. Just be their safety, just so they know that you're there. And exposure, exposure, exposure. Not to say that public school is going to teach them everything they need to know. We know that that's usually not the case. But exposure to those things and exposure to other kids who are not in that community, who can have conversations with them and help them open their eyes a little bit. And they are still so young. I'm sure, well, I can only hope that through time and exposure and knowledge and age, they will grow to learn why you did what you did and be grateful for it.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think you're doing an amazing job. So let's talk about you. How are you doing? And what do you do now that brings you joy and peace and all of those things?
Yeah, so I actually own a small business. I am a holistic practitioner and I still do fortune telling. I do palm readings, tarot card readings. I also certified, so I am a certified life coach, but I really like to explore like natural ways of living, food. Also, I mean, even in my community, we use a lot of like natural remedies. And so that's something that because we live in such a closed community, I like to talk about all the good stuff and kind of like share what I can with the world, like whatever's not considered like closed ceremonial practice. That's one thing there. And I am also working on a subscription service for natural products like home products and body care. So like soap, laundry soap, shampoo, conditioner, plastic free, kind of everything. Also that have like natural healing herbs and remedies from my community and from my culture. That's in a collaboration with Venenos, and they're a small holistic company. And then I have a book called Secrets of Romani Fortune Telling that I co-wrote with Jasmina Vantila, who is also my co-host in a podcast where we try to uplift Romani voices and just try to educate people about inside and outside the culture as well. And I recently went on a book tour. We had a Romanistan festival. It was we went to the East Coast, we went to the South, we were in the West Coast, just kind of all over America. We hope to get to Europe soon, eventually. Since then, just for people that are listening that are potentially like trapped in this community, I don't want to say trapped, but I want to say like, that are in this community, just know as crazy as it is or as difficult as it is, or if you feel like something's wrong, or if you feel like something's off, like you can go, like things are going to be okay. Like stresses are something that come and go, and as stressful as it is, like you can ask for help or look into help, because my life is nowhere near perfect, but I will tell you it's better, like, and as much craziness that I'm going through, I feel like I could get through anything at this point, and you're strong and you're resilient, but yeah, I'm living in San Diego. Like I have my pets, I have my chickens, I have, I like to exercise, I like to go to the beach. So like there's just little I guess, things that I do in my life that I'm just grateful for. Like, I wasn't allowed to do those things. I wasn't allowed to have pets. I wasn't even allowed to work out. Like, I wasn't allowed to live where I wanted to live. So there's certain freedoms that I have now that I'm extremely grateful for.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's just incredible everything that you've been able to accomplish and what you're doing. Congrats on your book. That's so awesome. And yeah, you said that you had pets. A lot of our guests find it very therapeutic to have animals around. Was I hearing a bird earlier?
I have everything. Okay. I have every animal. I have cats. I foster kittens. That's like one thing I do, and I help kind of find them homes. I have two birds, a lovebird and a parrot. I have chickens in the back.
Okay, so I was hearing birds. I was like, I think there's a bird in her house. I didn't want to stop the interview to address it. So cute little chirping if anyone else heard it. That's amazing. Congrats on everything that you've been able to accomplish. I think it's so great. And you already gave such great advice, but do you have any other advice for our Linda Listen statement or something sassy?
Oh, let's see. All I want to say is just because it's disguised as culture or it's disguised as respect, it is not those things. Like, if you're experiencing, you know, some kind of level of abuse or control, they can disguise it as anything, but the proof is in the pudding, and sometimes it's not those things. And
Mm.
majority of the time, it is abuse and it is control. And so do not let people disguise their abuse and their control with culture, community, and respect, because culture and community and respect uplifts people and it makes you feel good and it eases your stress and it doesn't expect anything in return. So do not let yourself be controlled. If there's anybody out there listening, that is my little advice, I guess. And the
Yes.
truth, yeah, and all those people, they can keep coming after me because what's crazy is that I still have sympathy for them in some weird, fucked up way. Like, I still have sympathy for these people because I know that they were raised like this, and I know that this is something that is deeply ingrained, maybe in their genetics. I'm not sure, but I feel like I'm dealing with people that are not competent enough to even know that this is not the way they should be living. Even my ex mother-in-law, Ruby, I've seen her experience and go through so much abuse. And I feel sorry for her. And I feel sorry that they have to experience this too. And you can stop me when I'm dead.
Yeah, that's a very healed perspective too, and I'm sure it took a while to allow yourself to get there. There are certain levels that everyone kind of goes through, the anger, resentment, sadness, all of those things, but being able to have sympathy for someone who is hurting you is a very healed perspective, and I'm really happy that you're able to have that and understand where they came from. And we talk about all the time, it's systems, not people. It's the systems that create the bad behaviors within the people. And so addressing those systems can hopefully bring awareness and shed light and maybe allow some things to change or try to affect change as much as we can. So where can people find and support you on social media, websites, all of the things?
Yeah, so people can find my social media at _Paulina_V_. And then my podcast you can find at romanistanpodcast.com and Instagram at romanistanpodcast. So yeah, but I just wanted to say you are doing really great work, okay? Like, God, the universe, whoever's work it is, okay?
Thank
Like,
you.
you're doing it. I'm serious. Like, all of those things that you say, raising awareness in communities like this. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for people like you and people like you that even exist in this world. So I appreciate it.
Aw, thank you. That means a lot, and I really appreciate it. I always say to our people listening, I feel honored that guests such as yourself are safe enough to tell me their stories and be willing to share on such a public platform, and I couldn't do it without you guys. But yes, I appreciate you and thank you for your support. Any other final thoughts before we go?
I think that was everything.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And guys, make sure to leave those words of encouragement down below. It means so much to us, our guests. It boosts the video so more people can see it, become aware, share it, of course. Subscribing is a great free way to support the podcast. If you want to support further, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/cults to consciousness. And I know I've said this for like 3 months. It's been crazy, but we are going to launch channel memberships very soon if you guys want extra perks within YouTube itself. And we have some merch over at cultstoconsciousness.com. We are going to Mexico at the end of October. If you guys want to come, we still have a few spots at a discounted rate. All of the links for everything we've talked about will be in the description. So make sure to check that out. And if you like this video, I'll link 2 more down here below. And until next time, follow your highest excitement, be conscious, and be well.